It's just a huge honor today to be podcast interviewing Dr. Bicky Tran. Thank you so much for coming over. And I wish I was smart enough to introduce you by your real name, which reminds me of a story. Your real name, say your real name.
Bicky.
So I was lecturing in China at the World Dental Meeting, and my friend there is my best buddy there. His name is Godfrey. And one day Godfrey and I were talking, I said, so is Godfrey your first name or your last name? And he goes, oh, you Americans. He said, when we were little, when we were in the first grade, they told us that people like you from America would never be able to say our name, or Western Europe. So we all got in the line, we came up, there's a hat of names, and you drew your American name.
Funny.
And mine was Godfrey.
Yeah.
I said, well, I don't want to call you Godfrey. I want to call you your real name. What's your real name? He goes, hey-yo, hey-yo, hey-yo. And I said, okay, Godfrey. And that's that your teacher was very smart. Because I think with languages, if you're not born in that language, your tongue probably can't make the sound.
Right.
And I've also heard... you're born in Vietnam. When you talk to a language educator, they say Vietnamese is the hardest language to learn. I've had several instructors tell me that, and I said, why is that? And they say, because you just take a word and translate it from English to Spanish or French. But in Vietnam, a word could mean 6 different things depending on how you made it sound.
Right. The tonal, the accent marks.
Yeah. So if you end on a high note or a low note or whatever, and they go, so if your tongue can't make those sounds, it's very difficult to learn. So do you, so I'll read your bio. Dr. Bicky Tran is a 2000 graduate of the Oregon Health Science University School of Dentistry. She is now in private practice in Old Town Scottsdale. When she's not hovering over a tooth, you'll most likely find her tending to her mini farm at the office. Over the years, she has cared for 8 vegetable garden beds, 2 peach trees, 1 nectarine, 1 plum, 3 passion fruit vines, multiple citrus plants, and pomegranate bushes. She has threatened to add chickens, but her staff is not allowing that to happen. My gosh. I should have read more from your website, but I mean, you were in Phoenix Best Top 20 Dentist, and what magazine was that?
The Phoenix Magazine.
The Phoenix Magazine, and so glad to get you on the show.
Well, thanks for having me.
So why? So you're where did this passion for fruit and vegetables come from?
You know, by my parents. I always tell people that I bring Oregon. I'm from Oregon. I grew up in Oregon. You know, where everything grows there. And my parents, as most Vietnamese families, when there was a little bit of dirt, they would have something growing. We had a little tiny plot of dirt right in front of our kitchen window on a very, very busy street. So they thought it was a good idea to grow corn. You know, as a 12-year-old, 13-year-old, it was kind of embarrassing to have corn grown in an urban city, right in the main street. But now I come to really appreciate that. It's just, there's something really peaceful about it. Going out there, tending to your garden, you know, dentistry can be really stressful. So it feels really good just to be out there, kind of like be with nature, but in your own little space. And plus, you get to eat what you grow.
You know, I get my fabulous figure because my father owned a Sonic drive-in. So when you were home eating fruits and vegetables and whatever a pomegranate is, I was eating hamburgers, french fries, and onion rings. So good for your parents. So so tell us about your journey. How did you get from Oregon to Scottsdale, Arizona?
Well, I came here thinking it was going to be only a year escape right out of dental school. So the plan was to come here for a year and just, you know, get out of Oregon because that's all I've known. And it just sucked me in. And I can remember my mom telling me, why are you in the desert? You know, you're a mountain girl. Even from Vietnam, Dalat is actually a mountain town. So she's like, what are you doing down here? You know, it's a mother thing. She didn't want me to leave. And so she's like, what are you doing down here? And I absolutely hated Arizona because it was hot. I mean, it is hot. It's hot, it's dry. But I thought, I had a couple other friends that were coming down. So I'm like, you know what, let's give it a try. And I was going to move back. Almost 20 years later, I'm still here. Now,
do you have children?
No.
You have no children? Because a lot of people don't get the idea to move back till they have a child and realize their deadbeat husband's never going to help, and they have no family.
That's probably why.
I've known so many women dentists that were here, and then as soon as they had a baby, they realized, oh, my husband's a really lazy guy. No. I have no help. I'm moving home. So it probably helps not to have...
that probably, yeah.
Yeah, so you don't need your mom to be your full-time babysitter. Yeah. So what are you passionate about in dentistry? Oh, I want to ask you, while I have you on the show, I want to take advantage of the fact that you're a woman dentist. And we have 2 dental schools in the Valley. We have A.T. Still in Mesa. We have Midwestern. And when I'm in those schools, a lot of women dentists in their early 20s are thinking, man, I want to have kids. So if I want to have kids, would it be better to be an employee and like be your associate or work for a DSO? Or would it be better to own my own practice?
Wow, that's a very tough individual question, I think. For me, I was actually an associate for 8 years, and I wasn't married, no kids. So I think that decision for me was a little bit easier because I didn't have any ties or anyone depending on me, so to speak. And at that time, I thought, I felt like I was ready to grow up. I wasn't. I was kind of bouncing from one office to another. I left the state. I went to San Francisco because I had in my head that this was a fabulous city and I needed to be there.
This is a what city?
A fabulous city.
San Fran.
Yeah.
Oh,
Back then.
It still is.
Well, and that was before I had only been practicing for 4 years, so I had to take the California board. Went through the whole deal and temped as a hygienist when I got up there.
Oh, and because there was just no need for a dentist?
Not really.
Because they have 6 dental schools.
There's a lot of dental schools. There's a lot of dentists, new grads, and the pay was the same for a new grad as it was for a dental hygienist. Isn't that crazy?
Wow.
And
they just opened up a 6th school. They had 5, and it's like, I just would have loved to have been at the committee where someone thought it was a great idea, but the schools have a different incentive.
Oh, yeah.
All the school deans, like Jack Dillenberg's been on this show, sitting right there, of the first and 10-year dean of ATSL. He says all these dental schools figured out 10 years ago that every time they raise their tuition $10,000 a year, they don't have a drop in applicants. There's so price elasticity, dental tuition is inelastic to demand. And so now we have so many schools that are $70,000 to $100,000 a year, and they still get 5,000 applications for 100 seats.
Right, and I remember them saying that 20 years ago when I started. So it just keeps getting worse and worse. I don't know. I don't know what these students are going to do when they graduate.
Well, the neat thing, how often do you get back to Vietnam?
Every few years.
Every few years. You still have family there? That's so cool. Malaysia. They had one dental school forever. And then those old dental schools were like ours. They were traditional undergrad dental school, kind of like the British system. That's when you go to India, wherever the Britons terrorized for hundreds of years. They have that system that we did here. But then these private schools started opening up. And so they started opening up, and first they were 5 years, and they were 4 years, and they were 3 years, they were 2 years. So you have all these private dental schools in India and China and Malaysia. So Malaysia went from one old style British school to like 10 new private schools where the average one's like 2 years. Same thing in Brazil. So now you're going when you go to Brazil, Brazil has 200 million people. We have over 300 million in the United States. And we have the same number of dentists. So when you go to Brazil, these dentists, their first 10 years out of school, they're dentistry during the day, and they're a waiter or bartender at night, and they have weekend jobs. And they just think it's a total success when they can quit their night job and their weekend job and just live off their dental income. So this supply and demand thing is not voodoo. It's very real. If you double the supply, and the United States population is pretty stable. It only grows like 1% a year or so. Ryan, what is the 10-year average growth rate of the United States population? So if you keep opening up 7 new dental schools, and your population is just barely growing, it's going to put downward pressures on dentists. So you, how long did you hygiene out in San Fran?
A year and a half.
Did you just love the city?
Yes and no. I did, but it was very hard to live in. The city itself is very beautiful, and it's what you would imagine. But the cost of living, the cost of being a dentist and working as a hygienist just didn't work out well.
0.7% in 2016.
So the United States population, I said 1%, and because I'm an optimist, but it's really only 0.7%.
Wow.
And so Ryan, can you find out in the last 10 years what the increase in dental school population was? So in the last 10 years, or the last year, if the United States population has grown 0.7%, what's happened to the supply of dentists? And now they're trying to pass dental therapists
I saw that.
Which is so insane because only Pew believes that a dental therapist will graduate and then she'll go cut down a tree and haul it out into a canoe and canoe up the river to where the natives live with no electricity or running water and do dentistry on people living off the land, off the grid, when they're going to try to get the best damn job they can in downtown Phoenix. And the only way you get rural dentists is to accept kids from rural schools. But California, none of these dental schools, they all want the highest GPA. And in California, they're always bragging about our freshman class had the highest GPA of all 6 dental schools, and we had the highest DAT exam. Yeah, dude, that's why there's no dentists in the rural. You know, you see it in these small towns where they'll tell their assistant, you know, we need a hygienist. We're in a town of 5,000. No one will drive 2 hours from Phoenix to be a hygienist. And their assistant's like, my life dream is to be a hygienist. So she applies to hygiene school, and she doesn't get accepted because she doesn't have a 3.85 GPA. And the hygiene school's like, okay, so that small town in Blythe, it's better to have no hygienist than a hygienist with poor algebra skills. I mean, that, you know, and Jack Dillenberg, who I loved, he said, you know, the Navajo Indian Reservation doesn't want a bunch of people that look like Howard going up there working for the Indian Public Health. They want a Navajo dentist. Yeah. And he said, and that was the problem that the Navajos had with, you know, they'd apply to dental schools, but they didn't have the high enough score. And Jack said, we got 17 Indian reservations in Arizona. You apply to my school, you're accepted. And so now they're, and guess where they go when they graduate? You think they want to live in Scottsdale? Where would a Navajo want to live?
They do want to go back.
Yeah, they want to go back. Their whole family, they speak a different language, they have different cultures and customs. Hell yeah, they want to go back. So bottom line, if you know, there's 9 specialties in dentistry, and everybody wants to talk about ortho and perio and pedo. No one wants to talk about public health. And public health begins with the dental school deans. And it's the same thing in business. The boys and I were driving to Vegas one time when we were up there camping near where's Springerville? Where's Greggy live by? Seligman. But anyway, we visited a mine. The guy, the same problem. I said, you know, what's the biggest problem with your mine? He said, I need mechanical engineers. But ASU only accepts mechanical engineers from Phoenix and Scottsdale and Tempe, and they don't want to live in this town. And when these boys and these kids from these small towns apply to the engineering schools, they don't get accepted. Because for whatever reason, a small town kid of 5,000, it's probably not a competitive enough environment. I'm sure a bigger high school, if you're in a class size of 20, you probably think you're the smartest person in the class. But when you're in a class size of 200 or 1,000, you realize, man, I'm not that smart. So it ups your game of competition, and you got to push yourself. And it's like, if ASU really gave a crap about economic policy in Arizona, they would accept half the class from rural, so that the rural area could get programmers and engineers and mechanical engineers and hygienists and dentists and all that. But it's just, and then people always wonder, why do the big cities just keep getting bigger? Same reason the rich keep getting richer. I mean, but anyway, enough of my rant. I don't want to rant. So after 8 years, how long did you keep your average associate job?
Oh, about a year.
Yeah. And how many of those were private jobs versus DSOs?
In Arizona, it was 2.
2 what?
2 private offices.
2 private offices in Arizona, and then how many DSOs?
2.
2. And then, so that's 4. What about the other 4? They were all in
San Francisco.
San Francisco. How many of those
actually,
were
there was 3 private practice here. There was one other.
Okay, 3 private practice, 2 DSOs, and then in San Fran.
2 main ones.
2 main ones?
Yeah.
What's a main one?
2 main ones that I kept steady every week, and then a bunch of other ones that I temped out.
But on the 2 main ones, were they private practice or DSA?
They were private.
Okay, and then you did a lot of temping. The point I'm trying to make is a lot of people point to the DSOs that they have a lot of associate turnover. Well, so does the private practice. And I think, and so does Wall Street. I mean, the greatest employers who have the most money, the most stock options to give, the most to bribe you with, is FANG, Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, Google, Microsoft, and their millennials only stay 1 or 2 years. Amazon burns them out the fat. Their average millennial doesn't even make it 1 year. And Facebook, with all their freebies, only keeps them 2 years.
Wow.
And so the reason I keep making that point is because podcasters are young. I always say, hey, send me an email, howard@dentaltown.com. Tell me about yourself. Or you can, or watch this in video. She has a face for YouTube. I have a face for iTunes. But on YouTube, just subscribe to Dentistry Uncensored. The reason I keep making this point is that a lot of kids in dental school have this fantasy dream that they're just going to work for someone else and live happily ever after. And it's like, I don't see any evidence of that. I only see the millennials or the dentists really getting happy when they finally own their own place. So is that your journey? So go back on your journey. Why do you think you worked for 5, 6, 7 different people in 8 years?
Because I wasn't happy.
And what makes Mama happy? Why? What were they doing that was making you not happy?
You know, I don't know. It's a combination of them versus me not being at the right place, right mindset at that time. I didn't really want the responsibility of owning my own practice. I knew that it was going to take a lot of my time, and at that time I was 26. When I graduated, I was 26, and I was ready just to live the world. I wanted to travel, I wanted to do things, not be tied down to a practice. So I think I was.
Now, were you married at that time?
No.
So the whole time the 8 years you're an associate, you were single? Because I see you're obviously married to someone who's very paranoid. She has a diamond and about the size of my house, just blinking. Taken. Does your husband?
He'll admit that.
He bought that for you out of paranoia. So part of that 8 year jumping around, you were also single.
Yes.
Is part of also not wanting to own an office, because I've heard a lot of younger dentists say, I don't want to buy an office until I get married, because what if I buy an office and I'm single and then I go across the country to a dental convention and meet the love of my life, and she's in Pittsburgh and I'm in Phoenix. Yeah. So a lot of them say, I really want to get married someday, because they really someday they'd give anything to lose their house and half their money in their 401k and write some woman a check for $3.8 million. But who's counting? So some people are so hell-bent on losing half of everything they've ever had that they don't want to get tied down, because in this very transient lifestyle, when we were little, almost everybody before 1950 was pretty much born, raised, reared in town, and almost no one went more than 100 miles away from home. And now these major cities, the half of America lives in 147 metros, and those towns are flipping 10% of their population every year. I mean, they go get a job in Boston, 2 years later, they're working in San Fran, or, like you did. You just picked up from Scottsdale, went to San Fran back. So was a lot of the associate stuff just because you were single and didn't want to be tied down in case the love of your life lived somewhere else?
Yes, and I wasn't challenged. With these associates, a lot of times they will only give you, you only do what you're given as far as the work. So you really don't have that freedom to do what you really want. I don't like root canal treatments, so my endodontist loves me now. But I have that choice now to only do simple root canal treatments versus as an associate, you do what you're told, right? Or do you get to do these big cases, full mouth cases, whatever it is? You do these MOD, DOB fillings that they don't want to do, so you get that. And that, I think it's pretty common in most associateships. But as far as having your own practice, you do have that option. So that so this is what I'm hearing from their side. When we look at associates, who keeps them the longest is actually Heartland. When you talk to Rick Workman and you talk to the dentists that stayed there the longest, you say, why? And they say, because when I came out of dental school, I never placed an implant. I never did an Invisalign case. And Heartland has massive amounts of online continuing education. They have all these courses for you. And so they're keeping them the longest because they know, well, if I work for Heartland for 3 or 4 or 5 years, I'll have my diplomat in oral implantology, my fellowship in AG. And then a lot of times the associates, they took a job with old man McGregor because he was doing something. Maybe he was a cosmetic dentist or he was an implantologist. But then they get the job and they're doing all these fillings. So it's like, so if you have an associate and you want to keep them, you got to get out your checkbook and send them these courses, and you got to give them the big cases. And I remember, so you just got to. You do.
I had 2 dental assistants ended up going to dental school, and that's how much expanded function I did. I mean, I can't tell you what they were doing because I'd probably have my license taken away and I'd go to jail. And I just don't look good in stripes. And but I mean, because they were so interested, and I always know which dental assistants are going to go to dental school. You know what it is? I'm bald. So when I'm looking and you're trying to look and we're like bumping heads, when you have to sit there and put your hand on your assistant's forehead and shove her back a foot, she's going to dental school. And then she would say to me, it was so funny, they both say to me, well, I can't see. It's like, I know you can't see, but I can't see, and I'm the one holding the scalpel and the elevator, and so it's just like, so they loved it so much, I would just let them do more and more and more and more, and finally, they were doing illegal operations at 10850 South 40. No, but I'm just kidding. So when if you want to keep that associate, mentor them.
It's true.
Give them the big cases. And you'll probably get a better associate. If you really want more mentor, go to a private one, but just be transparent. Just tell them in the interview, say, hey, I can get a job at any DSO in an hour. The reason I want to work for you is because I want to learn this. Are you gonna mentor me and teach me and let me do some of these cases, or am I going to be a prophy queen or a dental therapist queen? And by the way, these dentists that we're all against dental therapists. Well, I lecture in the States where they already have dental therapists, and the dentists there love them. They say, if I didn't have a hygienist, I'd be doing cleanings all day. I have 2 hygienists, and now I have 2 dental therapists, and they're doing all my fillings. They go. I'm 50 years old. I've done 10,000 posterior. I don't want to do another one. So now what do they do? Just the big stuff that they like to do. So what do you like to do? You don't like endo. What do you like?
I do like extractions.
You like oral surgery? So extractions. What else?
I like Invisalign.
Invisalign.
Isn't that terrible?
Why is that terrible?
As a GP.
Oh, yeah, the fear and scarcity orthodontic community. The sky's falling. Right. What else you like?
I don't like removable. That's still a struggle.
Don't like dentures.
Some cosmetics when it's the right patient, because cosmetics can be hard when it's not the right patient, because they can be very demanding, and sometimes things don't work out. Well,
it's always there's 2. If you look at the people who do cosmetics full time, and I've spent the time in their office, I think the young kids don't understand the cosmetic. Well, you always think, who's going to get all these bleaching, bonding veneers? Some girl that's going to be on the cover of GQ or Vogue or whatever the hell. But those girls are already beautiful, and they don't have any money. Only 10% of Americans buy houses and cars in cash, and they're senior citizens. And the only full-time veneer practice I've ever seen is Larry Rosenthal and his associate, Mike Appa? Yeah, Mike Lappa. So I hang out with Larry Rosenthal, Manhattan. All of his who pays $50,000 for veneers? 80-year-old retired women whose husbands died, and he's sitting there going to all these places, grabbing their cheeks, saying, "Oh my God, if you got veneers, everyone would think you were 65." And they'd write him a check for $50,000, and then when they delivered him, the whole staff would get around and just, "Oh my God, you look so beautiful." So I always thought the crazy cosmetic market was either they're just got divorced and they want to be all fixed up, so you're trying to do a cosmetic case to solve why her marriage went south, why she's divorced, and now has a profile on Plenty of Fish. By the way, when I got divorced, I put my profile on Plenty of Fish, and they took it down. They said I was a whale. They did. They said I was a whale. They said, you got to lose 50 pounds before you're a fish. And so they're going through a lot of pain. They have irrational expectations. But some people love that. I got a guy up the street who's got his fellowship in the AACD. He loves that stuff, so I don't like it. No. But what else? So you like extractions, Invisalign. You don't like endo or dentures. What else you like?
That's it. I'm pretty limited.
Did you buy any fancy toys? Oh, is your husband a dentist?
No.
Okay. What does your husband do?
He's in banking.
Yeah. See, that's why the women dentists are so much happier, because women dentists always marry someone that has a job. I mean, like 30% of the women dentists I know are married to a dentist, and the other 70%. What does your husband do? Oh, he's a banker. They always have a great job, so you don't have all this financial stress.
It really does help to have a supportive partner who can help you, or with the finances.
Yeah.
So I think it would be a lot more stressful if I had to do this on my own. But I bought it on my own. I started the practice before I was married.
You started the practice before you were married, or bought the practice?
Before I was married.
But after you found him?
No. I met him.
So you anchored.
Yeah.
You anchored down.
I met him a week before I opened. So, I mean, all the stress of opening a practice, building it from scratch, getting a loan, that was fun. That was pre-plan. Yeah.
Stressful times, which is why you met your husband in AA. You're just trying to quit.
Right.
You were trying to quit drinking from all the stress. And so now you've owned your own place for how long? 10 years. 10 years. So you're an associate 8 years. And I'm telling you kids in the dental school that don't think that's your ticket out, because if that's your ticket out, just show me all the evidence of all these people who have been an associate for 10 years in one place to love it. I just never, ever see. I'm sure there's one unicorn out there who's best friends with a tooth fairy that'll break the mold, but I'm guarantee you no one likes their associateship. And so now you've been an owner for 10 years. So how's that journey? Are you glad you did it?
I am now, but that's because it's been 10 years. I'm finally stable. The first 5 years, it was pretty miserable. I'm not gonna lie. I opened in 2008.
Oh, great timing!
Right?
What was your next best idea? 1929? You opened up 2008 because
I was very business savvy.
You should have got a time machine and got back to 1929 and opened it up through the Great Depression. So you opened up 2008, and I'm very proud of you. You know why? Because I opened up here in 1987, and in 2008 and 2009, there's different numbers, but I hear anywhere between like 64 and 67 dental offices went under.
Wow.
And they're basically two types. Half, and several of my friends, you came in, they took everything out and redid it all with Empress and veneers and porcelain, and they're like $50,000 case. That's all they did. And that market died. And when you say you don't like dentures, what I find in all of dentistry is you don't like anything that you don't do one time every week. So one time every week is critical to liking it, turning into loving it, and always making money. If you do a sleep apnea case every quarter, you never made a penny on net income. Same thing with Invisalign, implants. So when people say they want to get in implants, I say, well, this will work out great if you reach critical mass, which is 1 unit a week. So you're a smart person. If I gave you a job tomorrow at Denture World in Mesa, after 3 months, you'd be the best denturist.
I love it.
Yeah, you'd love it. So, and then the other half of 2008 bankruptcies were the brand new startups.
And I was a startup.
You were a startup because what the old model was is I'll just build it, they'll come, I'll do a direct mail piece, I'll do some Facebook ads, and everybody will run in. And what people realize that when people start losing their jobs, the last thing they walk away from is their car payment and their cell phone payment. But dentistry, ortho, all that just died, and you survived. When 35 other new office startups went south, you survived. So what was the key to surviving when 35 of your doctor, dentist colleagues didn't make it?
I just feel like I didn't have a choice. And I just had to believe that was going to work out.
So it's just faith?
Faith, but
Are you a religious person?
No, faith and luck.
Faith and luck?
But I'm not a religious person.
But what?
I'm not a religious person.
Okay, but it was faith in yourself.
Yeah, I guess no other choice, right? When you have nothing else going for you, this is it. I have to make it work. And a little bit of luck. I didn't do any marketing. Didn't do any that had nothing in place when I opened my door. My first day consisted of 4 or 5 of my friends who came as patients to support me. That was it. That's how I started. But then I met a gal, and she was a PR person. She's like, well, why don't I do this for you? We were kind of acquaintance. She goes, why don't I do this? And that's how I got started. And she was my first real boost in 2008. So basically, she got me on local TV news stations, local magazines, and it wasn't advertising. It was more,
PR.
Yes, we're going to bring Dr. Tran on the news today, and we're going to, help different topics that I would have to talk about or write about.
Now, do you still use her 10 years later?
I don't. Because after a year, it was kind of expensive. I remember I didn't have any money to begin with.
Does she still have a firm?
She does.
Ryan Finder, who is that?
Charlotte Schaff.
Charlotte Schaff? How do you spell Schaff?
SCHAFF.
Was she the lady in Charlotte's Web?
No.
But no, that would be interesting because you're you're an outlier, because dentists do traditional direct mail or they do digital marketing, but you got a PR agency.
That's why I said
I would say what 99.9% of dentists do not have a PR agency, and So you say that part was luck. What, she came in as a patient?
No, I just met her through a women's group.
So you're a sexist. You attend things where I'm not allowed to go.
I'm surprised I'm here talking to you, Howard.
We're going to start doing only Irish podcasts. So you were in a women's group, so you're out networking.
Yeah.
And what was the women's group?
It was a women's art group.
Women's art?
Yes. So when I moved back from San Francisco, all of my girlfriends then had already, gone off and got married. So here I am, the single girl again. And so I thought I needed new friends, and I thought I need to get out there and just do something different than what I was doing in the past. So I joined this women's art group, and that's how I met her. And actually a lot of my other women friends that are now have become patients. It wasn't accidental. It wasn't for networking. It was actually for a personal purpose. But it ended up working out, both personally and professionally, because a lot of those women are now patients.
That is very cool.
So,
yeah, when we were lecturing in Paris, which boys were in Paris with us? It was
me, you, and Greg.
Just me, you, and Greg?
Yeah.
So Zach and Eric didn't go? Zach didn't go?
No.
And so we thought, well, I'm born in a barn, Kansas. I thought, well, we should probably go see the Mona Lisa. We're here, and we're all like, we've all seen the Mona Lisa. No one wants to see the Mona Lisa. We said, well, we got to go. What was it called? The Berg?
the Louvre.
The Louvre?
Yeah.
We went to the Louvre. The Mona Lisa was at the very end. It was the least interesting. That was the most interesting day we ever spent. I'd say the average painting was the size of like a garage door. And you'd be looking at this painting and all these little details, like there'd be maybe an elf sitting behind a tree or this or that or demon. That was, have you ever been there? Did you think that was the coolest art gallery in the world?
It was pretty fascinating.
Have you ever seen better?
Probably not.
And then the statues. The French, and then what was really cool, did you see that movie where they actually went in there and hid all that stuff? And they made a whole movie on it, but the actual military was so afraid that that the Nazis were going to steal it all. They actually hid it all. But yeah, that was really cool. So you're into art too?
Well, I tried. I wanted to educate myself. That's why I joined this group. I didn't know enough of it, and I wanted to learn more. So I thought, well, I'm going to check it out. And that's how it all happened.
So you admit that you just luckily found a PR agency, but it worked.
It worked. Like I said, it was my first real boost. For the next few months.
It was a boost during a financial collapse.
Right.
Which I'm afraid to tell you, I'm half a century old, so I've seen all these rodeos, and this is the longest economic expansion in recent American history. The housing rates are crazy, and they're raising interest rates, and it just smells just like 2007 again. And you know what smells the most of why it's 2007 is because what was the trigger of 2008? Do you remember the economic trigger? It was all the subprime lending. So they were giving all these people that didn't qualify for a loan, and then so the government gets involved, passes all this regulation. But what do entrepreneurs do? They get around every loophole, every patent, everything. So what they do, they said, okay, well, we can't do subprime lending because all laws. So now we're going to get out of banking and go into peer-to-peer lending, where we go to people who can invest $1 million who are only getting, 2% in the bond market? And we'll loan it to subprime lending because we're not a bank. We're peer-to-peer lending. And if you look at 2008, I think we sold something like 7 million cars, and last year it was like 17 million cars. But if you look at those 17 million cars, like 5 million were leased. Well, why did they lease 5 million cars? Because they couldn't get a loan at a bank to buy that car. So the leases are subprime lending. The housing bubble is being fueled again by peer-to-peer lending. So you can, the 10 Commandments were written 2,500 years ago, and the top 3 things everybody's still doing is lying, cheating, stealing. So you can change all the laws, but then goes into game theory. It's like, oh, well, this is the law, so how do I not break the law? Then they find a lawyer, and And they say, well, let's set up peer-to-peer lending. So it's the subprime lending is out of control. It's driving up car prices, housing prices, the stock market. It's so
It's happening again.
It's happening right again. So if it did, and no one can predict the future, but I'll tell you 2 rules about bubbles. They always get bigger than you ever thought they would, and they always pop. But if it did pop in, this is April of 2018. So let's say in the next, in the next short-term period, whether that's 1, 2, 3 years or tomorrow, nobody can predict the future. What advice would you give them? Since you survived through that when 35 other new startups went bankrupt, so.
Be frugal.
Exactly.
I mean, just save. You have to save and prepare yourself. It's really, that's the basic everything. And I will tell you, that's how I started. I mean, I was driving around an old beat-up Passat when I started my
beat up what?
Passat.
How do you spell Passat?
P-A-S-S-A-T.
And who makes that?
Volkswagen.
Volkswagen, huh?
Yeah, it was, I had a headlight falling out on the side. My lock wasn't really working anymore, but I wasn't going to go out and buy a brand new car with that new fancy loan that I got for my practice. You just have to be good with your money. But that's with everybody. And that's, I think, half the problem, is people spend what they don't have.
Yeah, like my car is a 2004. It has 150,000 miles on it. My office is 3 miles away. Every time I take the oil change, the guy's like, well, if you just leave your car here and give me a check for 105,000, you could leave it a new Lexus SUV. And it's like, why? Right. I mean, it's insane. It's paid for it. It's a Lexus. It's never burped. It's never had a problem. It's never had an issue. So be frugal. So then going back to your dental office, you talked about you liked extractions of Invisalign, but you don't like endo or dentures. Did you buy any expensive toys in your office?
I did. I made a few mistakes.
Well, we'll share them so that someone else won't.
The first mistake was, sorry, but I bought the BioLace, and that to me was a mistake.
How much was it?
It was, I think with finance, it was about $130,000.
130,000. Man, don't you wish you would have put that in an S&P 500 index fund?
Yeah, that was big.
What year did you buy it?
I bought that in 2000. I think it was 2008.
So you bought that in 2000. If you'd have put that 130 in an S&P 500 index fund.
Thanks for making me feel better.
Hey, you haven't got divorced yet, so if you just keep your husband. I don't care how rotten, lazy, old, fat, and senile he gets. Just keep him, and that BioLace thing will be just
it's nothing, right?
It'll be nothing.
Yeah.
So what did you buy? What was your expectation when you bought a $130,000 laser?
So I thought that if it was going to make my skills better, if I thought I was going to be a better clinician, my fillings were going to be, they talked about if you put this laser on your cavity preps, it's antibacterial, all this, da-da-da-da. I'm like, well, it's a better bonding. If it's going to make my fillings better, my cases go smoothly, whatever. If it's going to make me a better dentist, then it's worth it. That's how I was looking at it. Of course, and
that's an admirable way.
Well, that's
that's pretty damn cool. You were going to buy a $100,000 deal because you wanted to be a higher quality dentist. I think that's very admirable.
That was really it. And it's like, if it's going to make me better, then I'm going to buy it.
So do you know what laser stands for?
Losers. Just kidding.
Well, some people think it stands for light amplification, stimulation, emission of radiation, but it actually stands for losing all savings equals reality. What other toys?
I bought a CEREC, and that was about 4 years ago. And
I've had algebra, so this is 2018. I'm thinking around 2014. 2014, you bought a CEREC. What did that set you back?
About another 130 as well.
100. You like that 130? Ryan,
that's my magic number.
Run around the house, see if you can find something to buy for me for 130,000.
Done.
So what do you think of that decision?
I do like the CEREC. Because I do like the lab work. I know it's crazy as it sounds. I like being part of that creation. I've always liked the lab work, even in dental school. And it's frustrating at times because when it doesn't work out, I'm like, it's mine. That was mine. That was my work, and it's crappy. But when it does turn out, then it's really, really rewarding. Yeah,
and that's why I do recommend lasers and CEREC machines, because burnout, disease, depression leading to drinking, and 14% of dentists once in their career will go to inpatient care for I think it's 85% of the alcohol, 15% hydrocodone.
Wow.
And so you're so smart. If you hate endo, One of my best friends, he told me 25 years ago, he said, I'd rather be taken in the backyard and beat than do a molar endo. I said, Bob, they're called endodontist. And you can't afford to do a molar endo if that's how it makes you feel, because then you'll hate driving to work.
Right.
And once you hate driving to work, then you'll be that person on Dental Town who's thinking, oh, hopefully in 10 more years I can get out of this mess. And it's like, dude, you don't sit there and stay in a mess for 10 years. Why is it a mess? If you hate your hygienist, fire her. If you hate endo, get rid of it. Because what matters the most is that you may be happy and healthy. If you're happy and healthy, it's all going to work out. You'll like what you do, because no one gets off this rock. I mean, we're all trapped on a rock flying around the sun once a year, and every time it passes the planet Uranus, you should ask yourself, am I happy and healthy? And if being healthy means, if I bought a laser, man, that'd be so damn cool, and you run 20 red lights, do it. Now, my MBA training will say don't do it, but my psychology reading, would say do it. So you're glad you bought the CEREC machine?
I am.
Nice.
Yeah.
So are you buddies with Samir? Because you're in Scottsdale. He's up the street. Have you ever met him?
I have. Just through his classes. But
Well, have you ever gone to lunch? Have you ever invited him to lunch?
no. Should I?
You should. You should. He knows more about that CEREC machine. Yeah, I'll send you. Shoot me an email.
Okay.
And I'll set up a lunch with you, me, and Samir in Old Town Scottsdale.
That'd be great.
And then we can walk down that art street. Which still makes me cringe. You know why?
Why?
There was it was 1987, and there was a painting there from a instructor from U of A, and it was called The Rise of Africa by, I think it was Skimmel. I think it was Skimmel. I think I still remember that 30 years ago. And it was the earth, and it was like elephants and giraffes walking over the top of the earth with all these stars and planets. And it's called The Rise of Africa. And it was $5,000. And I said, that is so beautiful. I want that. I don't even want it for my dental office. I want that for my home. That is so cool. But I had $87,000 student loans. I just opened a dental office. I knew that was just completely insane. So then fast forward about 5 years, and now I'm rich. And I call that art gallery and tell them I want to buy it. And she goes, well, that's been bought and sold 4 times. The last time it was bought, it was for $1.7 million. And right now I can track it down. So then she called back and said, okay, found the studio. He bought it for 1.7. He'll sell it to you for $2 million even.
God.
I'm like, oh my God. So I'm like, well, at least I had the only happiness is that at least I had art taste. At least I saw some.
At least you knew.
At least I knew the only painting I wanted. But I still love that art district. And do you know Scottsdale is the 4th largest art district by sales of dollars? Wow. And that's why there's a Mayo Clinic there. Because there's a lot of retired old money in Scottsdale and Paradise Valley. So you like your CEREC machine. Now, what kind of CEREC do you have?
Oh, it's the Omnicam.
The Omnicam? So help someone decide why you like it. Someone said, because that's a big decision. Whenever a decision is $130,000, that's when they get serious. So what do you think will determine if they buy that and that was a great return on investment, where if they buy that now it's going to be a coat hanger where you could buy it for half price on the Dental Town classified ads? I cannot believe how many people don't take advantage of those classified ads. It only gets like 1,000 unique visitors a day, and there's 6,000 ads, and they're all relevant because they all expire. They're all for free, and they all expire after 120 days. But you can buy, just like I'd rather buy a new car. I'd rather buy a car that's 1 year old for half the price. But anyway, but how could you help someone know because do you know people that have bought it and don't like it? Well, what do you think is the succinct difference between the people who bought it and don't use it, now it's a coat rack, versus the ones like you who buy it and love it?
You have to stick with it. Because the first year for me was very frustrating. Sometimes the software, it's a computer, so sometimes it breaks down or it has funny glitches that you don't know how to fix. You just have to keep going. And the other thing, I think for me is, because I do all my own design and I don't rely on an assistant, so when I buy something, whether or not it's a laser, CEREC, or any other product, it's because it's going to make me better, and a better dentist, not because I can go faster. So if you're looking at it from a production point of view, meaning I can do more crowns because now my assistants are doing this. I don't know if I would recommend that because it's a different ball game from that perspective.
So did you just say you don't have an assistant?
I do, but I do all my own design. I draw my, she gets a setup, but I draw my own margin. I design the crown. I fix the crown, and then she takes care of the rest.
But am I reading between the lines? You like art. Mm-hmm. You're creative. You like doing art with your hands. Mm-hmm. Do you think a lot of that is fulfilling just the artistic, passionate side of you?
Is it fulfilling to do? Yeah, to do the.
Yeah. And you said you liked lab work.
I do.
Yeah, so you're saying if you like lab work,
yes,
and you do the ceramic, you do all the design and milling yourself and everything, that it's a better bet that you're going to like it.
Correct.
But if you're going to buy that and just hand it off to your assistant and do it, that's might be less likely.
Right. Or you better have a really, really good assistant.
Or you need to have an assistant that's like you, who has a passion to do it.
Right.
So yeah, you can lead a horse to water, you can't make a drink, but if you tell your assistant she's going to do all that and she doesn't like doing that, it's not going to be good.
Right. If that's the direction.
And I noticed with our ceramic machine, there are assistants where they are like, well, can we do it in-house?
Yeah.
And you can tell that
they're excited.
They just really want to do that. Mm-hmm. And then there's other ones that'll just tell you.
They're scared.
Which lab do you want to send this to?
Right.
So a lot of times, that's why I always tell people with advice, don't ask other people for advice because, number one, if you asked your drinking single buddy versus the Catholic priest a question, you're going to get two different answers. Right. So when your assistant says which lab do you want to send it to, you can flip that around and say she doesn't want to do it in-house. And if your other assistant says, can we do this in-house? I mean, she wants to. Mm-hmm. And what blocks are you milling? Is it all Emax?
Yeah,
or?
all Emax.
Yeah, they still have like 85%. But you know what's the most bizarre thing? Is the minute Dentsply Sirona, or Dentsply, merged with Sirona, so the biggest company in dentistry at the time, X-Ray, in what is it, Milford, Delaware, marries Sirona, which used to be with Siemens, like a big P&G or Gillette deal, and they spun that off to an independent deal for financial reasons, but the building didn't move or anything. As soon as they got married, wasn't it interesting how all the CIRAC educators immediately stopped recommending Emax and started recommending something made by Dentsply.
Yeah.
Funny how NASCAR changes like that. And it just is what it is. I love these guys. I know them all. But come on, man. When you sit there and 100% of them recommend Emax, and then it was exactly 12.9 nanoseconds after the merger, they all switched to a Dentsply porcelain block. Come on, man. Come on. So take a lot of that stuff with a grain of salt, right? And that's why I like Dentaltown, because on your Facebook group, buddy, when anybody tells you something you don't like, you just unfriend them. On Dentaltown, the reason you're afraid to post is because someone's going to call bullshit. None of those NASCAR drivers get on there and start talking about how great the Dentsply porcelain block is, because they know everyone's going to say, funny, funny how that happened 12.9 nanoseconds after your company merged with the other one. So there's a lot of bullshit, and I'm full of bullshit too. So I mean, we're all humans. But anyway, any other toys?
That's it.
So there's only two toys.
Yeah.
So I'm a commission salesman. And I'm going to go start Googling what sells for $130,000. And then I'm going to call that company and say, hey, can I get a 5% commission? Because I know this woman in Scottsdale who will buy anything for $130,000.
That's the magic number.
That's the magic number. So you like extractions. Every oral surgeon I know says that it takes more skill to take out a tooth than to place an implant. And when kids come out of school and they say, I've never placed an implant, the first thing the old guys tell them is, well, start getting good at extractions. And I'll tell you, the best way to get training as extractions is get a Saturday job at Denture World or some clinic or something, because I did that. And when my office opened, I worked at Sunshine. They had 4 locations. I worked for Gary Sullivan, and he was open 7 a.m. to 10 p.m., 7 days a week. So I could even work on Sunday. And when I worked on Sunday for Gary, I'd work from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. You could pull 25 teeth in a day. But what I loved about it is I was a kid, I was a baby, and there were older guys in there. Like my best friend there was Gidwani. He goes by Nick Gidwani, but his name's I'm trying to remember his Indian name, but he goes by Nick, like you go by Bicky. But anyway, but whatever I couldn't remove, you know, Dr. Gidwani would take it out for me in 4 seconds and show me what he was doing.
Wow.
So I felt really safe that I could attempt all these extractions, and I'd always have Nick Gidwani behind me for all the ones I couldn't get out, and I kept that job for 4 months. I kept that job just till I didn't need to see Nick anymore. As soon as I thought, I can get it out. I don't need to be in the safety of Dr. Gidwani. So if you got that skill, then putting in an implant is half that skill. So are you thinking about placing implants?
Not.
And so it's kind of weird that you would love blood and guts oral surgery and taking out teeth, but not doing that other surgery. Where do you think that comes from?
You know, at this point in my practice, I don't feel like I need that extra production. And I don't really care to go and learn. I know it sounds horrible, but
No, it's not.
my focus right now is getting better at Invisalign and doing other things. So that's where my focus is versus placing implants. I have great oral surgeons and periodontists that I work with who do place them for me.
Now, is it just one oral surgeon or one periodontist?
There's a few.
So do you think it's a huge bad bias to say that periodontists place implants better because they're sweet and tender with the gums, and oral surgeons are more butchers from?
Yes.
Do you think that's a huge overgeneralization?
There are some oral surgeons that will pay more attention than some periodontists. So I always pick and choose the case. More.
So then, you're in Scottsdale. What makes you pick an oral surgeon over I mean, how many different oral surgeons and periodontists do you work with?
I work with 3 oral surgeons and 3 periodontists.
So
3 and 3.
Well, what is that because? Is that because of where the patient lives, or is there just that many nuances with a case?
Yes, and personalities.
Yeah.
So I try to go, if I know this oral surgeon would do a really good job on an anterior case, then I will go to that oral surgeon for this. Or if I think, you know, this patient might not like this oral surgeon so much, or this periodontists, then, I mean, I kind of have to.
I know, it's so sad.
Like
it's so sad because the best orthodontists we ever had in Ahwatukee, the patients and their parents didn't like him. And people would always come in my office, and then they'd be screaming at me because, like, he brought her daughter in. She said, "I'm not a garbage collector. Get in there and brush your damn teeth." Then she came out, and it wasn't good enough, and he sent her back again. When she came out the second time, he was crying.
Wow.
And their dad said, "Screw you," and then drove by my office and cussed me out.
Yeah.
And then there's these 2 Canadians. Oh my God, they're both from Canada. They're both the nicest guys. They're just all personality. And you refer to those specialists because they're going to make eye contact and they're going to shake your hand, and the staff's all adorable. And the big $1 million practices, they don't care if you have a 4.0 and half the alphabet soup behind your name and everything. It's like, we're in the people business. All the dentistry we do is invisible. They wouldn't know if you did the dentistry right or wrong, or they don't know any of that stuff. They just know how you made them feel. And to prove it, I can't believe how many patients will have one of something, like maybe only 1 crown, or maybe only 1 gold crown. They have something really unique in your mouth, and you point into to their only crown. Who did that? I don't know.
It's true.
I'm like, well, did you wake up on the sidewalk one day and felt your mouth violated and saw some man running down the street? I mean, who the hell could get in there and do that? And you didn't see it? But they don't remember any of that stuff. They just remember who they like. And also, the young kids, I used to have so many evenings ruined because someone would call me up and say, "You know that filling you just did? The whole damn thing fell out." And I'm like, oh my God, I'll see you first thing in the morning. Yeah, it's never the tooth you did. They're doing Occam's razor. I saw Howard a week ago. Now I have 32 teeth. One just exploded. So it's the one Howard did. So if you're a young kid and you get that phone call late at night, just
Don't
go to
worry,
bed. Patients never know who did what in their mouth.
It's true.
But they know who they liked. And they know how you made them feel. So what's got you excited about Invisalign?
I thought I was going to go to ortho after school, but then I realized that you want to go to school for another 3 years.
But now you could, because doesn't AT still have an ortho program?
Yeah, but I don't know.
Does Midwestern?
I'm not interested in going back.
You don't want to go back to school?
No.
Okay.
I'm looking at my way at retirement, not starting over.
Yeah.
Is that horrible?
Well, how long do you have a retirement date?
No.
Okay.
No.
So talk Invisalign.
I like Invisalign or braces in general because it makes people happy.
Yep.
It's all about being happy. I like being a dentist versus being a doctor because it's a happier place. I should say it's happy.
A dentist is a happier place than a doctor's
yes,
office?
Yes, because people are sick and they're dying at times, right?
Yeah.
It's a morbid. It's a sad place.
Yeah.
So those were my only two choices growing up. Mom was like, "You're going to be a doctor."
Well, my first was a dentist. Second was a dermatologist. Third was an ophthalmologist, and I got accepted to Creighton Dent and Med. The med school is my backup plan, and it was so funny. You know how I got accepted into med school? By telling, he said, well, first of all, you don't apply to medical school and tell us we're your backup plan. He said, if you want to go to dental school, go to dental school. I said, I applied, but you're my backup plan. And he goes, well, what would be? And I said, a dermatologist. And he said, why? And he was a Jesuit priest. And my two sisters were nuns, and he knew that. So the Catholic mafia was in place.
Yeah.
And I said, well, my whole face is covered with cystic acne. I think God's trying to give me a sign. And he laughed so hard. He laughed so hard. He said, okay, well, if you don't get into dental school, we'll take you, Creighton Med. But what I liked about dentistry, dermatology, and ophthalmology is what I hated the most about physicians is not only we might mess up a tooth.
Right.
Their patients die.
Right.
And number two, the politics in a dental school or a hospital are insane. And I don't like that. And what I liked about dermatologists and ophthalmologists, just like dentists, they own their own land, building, little office, own staff. They're the little dictator, king of their little fiefdom. And they didn't have to go golf with the hospital head surgeon who delegates out hospital privileges. And I don't want to be going to your kid's birthday party because I'm sucking up to you. And dental school, same thing. One of my friends works at a dental school, and every time they have a meeting about all the crazy bullshit, he says, I'm not going. He says, look, if you want to fire me. But I'm here on my one day off a week, Friday, because I love teaching kids. And I don't love all your bullshit drama. So if you want to fire my ass, fire me. But I'm here with the kids. Go do your crazy stuff. Because, they have all... So humans are complicated. Whenever as the tribe gets bigger and bigger, it gets crazier and crazier. But yeah, I feel sorry for physicians who have to deal with hospitals.
It's hard.
Yeah.
So, no doctors. No MDs.
Yeah, no physicians, yeah. So Invisalign, we've seen this rodeo before. So when in '87 bleaching came out, it was Omni Pharmaceuticals out of Arkansas, and the guy that was a distributor for Arizona was David Keel, and he just happened to move right across the street from me. So I was the first dentist he met. So I did the first case just by random luck, but we were getting 500 a case, 250 upper, 250 lower. Wow. And then who popped that bubble when Crest came out with Crest strips for $50. And now you're seeing Invisalign, who just bought, I think, 17% of Smiles Direct Club and set up their own malls. Where their girls are going to scan them in a mall, and then that digital image is sent to Costa Rica, where the dentist there costs less than your dental assistant in Scottsdale, and now they're going to send them directly to your home.
Yeah.
So is that having any downward pressures in 2018 in Scottsdale?
No.
Is that not an issue?
No.
Do you predict that will be an issue?
Right now, I have two patients that are currently going through it, and right now neither one of them are happy. because they're not getting the results that they want, and it's it's cheaper, yeah, but in the end.
Well, how much cheaper is it? What are you charging for Invisalign?
It depends on the case, anywhere from $3,500 to $5,500.
Anywhere from $3,500 to $5,500. Is that based on how many different aligners you think you're going to have to make?
Correct. On whether it's an express case, limited case, or a full case.
Okay, express, limited,
or
full. Are these your terms or Invisalign's terms?
I think the express is Invisalign. Limited, limited and full is pretty.
Because I know when I go to Meineke Muffler, they have the basic, premium, and premier. I always thought premium and premier, that's the same damn word, and they both start with P. They need to get rid of one of them P words. But express, how many aligners in time period are you thinking?
10 trays.
10 trays, 10 months?
10 trays, 5 to 6 months.
Okay. So one of the ways you believe, when we were little, ortho was always 2 years. And every time Boeing came out with a new plane, it still only flew 550 miles an hour. But now, the new Boeing planes are still only going 550 miles an hour, but you're seeing treatment times in ortho starting to go down. And a lot of people say that they saw them once a month because this mama paid the bill once a month.
Oh, how funny.
And that the appointment time started out with the payment time. But if you get money up front, that if you're switching out these trays every 2 weeks instead of 4 weeks, you'll take a 2-year case to a 1-year case. Would you agree with that statement assessment or not really?
I still see my patients once a month.
But not if you're doing 10, not if Express is 10 aligners and the case is 5 months.
I still see them once a month. So I still see them I still give them their trays.
Oh, you give them their trays?
Just the two sets at a time.
Okay, so you'll give them 2 trays, and you'll say, wear this one for 2 weeks, this one for 2 weeks, and I'll see you once a month. Okay. And then what's limited? And so how much is the express case?
They're $3,500.
$3,500. Okay. And what's limited?
The limit is 14 trays.
14 trays so I'm thinking 7 months?
Something like that.
Okay.
So the reason why I say that, because usually...
I'm a lawyer, and this is a what is it called when the lawyer? This is a deposition. And, okay, so how much is the limited?
$4,500.
$4,500. So having taken algebra and trig, I'm thinking the full is $5,500. And then 10 trays to 14 trays. So the full is, I'm going with 18 trays?
It's 14 plus.
14 plus? And, but you're liking this?
I do. It's pretty simple.
And how much is your lab bill for the Express Limited and Full?
I don't know exactly my numbers, but I think the Express is about $1,900 something.
Okay.
The 4,500. I can't remember.
Can't remember. That's cool.
The full is almost 2,000, like 1,700, 1,800.
But you feel like you're in the profit zone with these. You feel like you're making money.
Yeah, I do. I still it makes me so with Invisalign versus full cosmetic case, so full rehab. Most people will be happy, or most people you can change their smile or make them have this beautiful, pretty smile just with Invisalign whitening. I'd rather do that than put a crown or a veneer on every single tooth.
Right.
So that's why it makes me happy. It makes me happy, it makes them happy.
And where I called bullshit was on so many AACD people showing all these cases where they had this little bitty problem and then they shaved down all these teeth and do veneers.
Right.
And what do those veneers look like 10, 20 years later? What do they look like? Horrible. And then when their daughter said, Dad, I want that. Oh, no, not my little girl. You're going to do braces and bleaching. It's like, well, if you only would do braces and bleaching on your own daughter, but if someone else sends you their daughter, you shave all the enamel off their teeth.
Right.
And it's just not minimally invasive. And I'll never forget, the guy that explained to me the most was a 92-year-old still practicing dentist in St. Joe, Missouri. His name was George Rui Sr., and he's 2 funny things. I said, you ever see anybody with 100 years old and have all their teeth? And he goes, oh, hell yeah. I said, what's the secret to that? He is minding your own business. And we laughed, and I said, but no. I said, what do you think the secret is? And he says when they're 100, or let's say they're 90. When they're 90, I don't care how many teeth they have left. You know which teeth they are? The one that no one ever touched. He goes, the filling, Years later turns into a crown, years later turns into a root canal and a crown, and then later turns into an extraction. And he says the key is minimally invasive dentistry. Quit, if your only tool is a hammer, everything looks like a drill, quit drilling on all these damn teeth and leave them alone, so be conservative. And when I see a 22-year-old girl who wants instant veneers, she needs a damn mom or a dad to say, no, no, Megan, you're going to live to be 100. You don't want to do this to your teeth when you're 22. And that's why, yeah. Anyway, so, God dang, I can't believe it's already been over an hour. We're already 5 minutes of overtime. But back to these two cases that went through. Did they go through Smiles Direct Club?
They did.
And why do you think those two aren't happy?
Because no one's monitoring them. No one's saying, maybe this is, there's no attachments involved. There's no IPRs involved.
Okay, they might not know what IPR is.
Basically, interproximal reduction, making your teeth a little smaller so that there's space for the teeth to move around. And that's really it. But in some cases, you have to have some. In some cases, when it's so overlapped or there's so much crowding, how are you going to make room? You can do some with expansion, but you still need a little bit of space, right? But with the Smile Direct, there's no attachments, no IPRs, no one's looking at them when our patients are actually wearing them. I know it's kind of a pain to see patients once a month, but I know which ones who are wearing the trays like they're supposed to and who are not. But that's when I know that I can say, you know what, we need to add a few more days to your case without having to say, you're not wearing them, what's going on?
Two more things I like about that. So let's say that it's, they got 4 millimeters of crowding. Well, a lot of times they also don't like their MOD amalgams or that ugly PFM, and you can redo all the fillings with open contacts and redo that crown, leave an open contact, and then that space. And the other thing I like about interproximal reduction is that it just seems logical to me that if I try to hold 4 basketballs together, that's pretty unstable. But 4 blocks is very stable. And I think it's a more retentive relationship when you do some interproximal, because if they kind of fit together with a little flat against flat, even if it's only just a half millimeter, a millimeter, that's hell more stable than 2 round teeth that are just slipping and sliding around. So yeah, the interproximal reduction. And that was another thing I thought was weird about orthodontists. Like 30 years ago, my God, there were so many 4 bicuspid extraction cases going on.
I'm one of them.
They did that to you?
Yeah.
Yeah. And does it bother you?
Not really. I mean, I know that at that time, that's what they knew, right?
Yeah. So. Well, I'd rather have 4 bicuspid extraction if I could get my tonsils and adenoids back. I was born in '62, so me and my sisters, the first time you were a kid and you got a cold and you went to the hospital or doctors, they took them damn tonsils out. And I'm reading all these papers about how immunodeficit my throat is. Some of those ENTs call it the Bermuda Triangle, because that's your lymphatic system. And so what I do is before I eat or breathe, I always take a swish of vodka and swish it around to kill 99.99% of all the germs. And but anyway, I would go back to a lot of those orthodontists and said, if we just replaced all these amalgams and crowns with all open margins, I said, do you really think we need to pull 4 teeth? And they would say, well, you know what, do that, and then send her back and let me see. And they'd say, yeah, now we can do that without pulling 4 teeth. But I don't know. Well, that was now we're at 1 hour and 10. Really, a big fan of yours. Congratulations on making the magazine. Now, is that a big marketing thing when the Phoenix magazine comes out and you're in the top 20?
It was. And I still give her credit, Charlotte.
So it's, no, I don't want to take anything away from you. Is it more a PR thing or a truly colleagues voting merit-based? Is it a merit-based system or is it more marketing and advertising?
I don't think, because when that came out, I mean, I might know 5 dentists in town. I said, did you vote for me? No. Did you vote for me? No. Did you even get a flyer? No. So that was so who voted for me then? Was that strange? I think it was a coincidence that during that time I did do a lot of PRs, so I was kind of known in the media. Yeah. And I think that's why they selected me. I don't think it was because of any peer voting. Because no one I knew voted for me. So how do you explain that?
Yeah.
And at that time, green dentistry was big.
Green dentistry.
Right. Well, I'm not a green dentist. My office is green.
Now, are you saying that because you were in San Francisco? That's a very green deal. Yes. I know a dentist in San Francisco where on their website they will say, we recycle everything. Our dental office is off the grid. It's completely powered by solar because we have a deal here in Arizona where we can pay more money to, I think is it SRP or APS because they got solar farms. Mm-hmm. But I can pay a little bit more money and then I could advertise that my dental office is 100% solar powered. But in San Francisco and Silicon Valley and San Jose, dentists were telling me that they were have patients driving clear across the town because they were not leaving an environmental footprint.
Interesting.
Which is all emotional crap because first of all, she's driving clear across town.
Wasting gas.
Yeah, wasting gas. And then if you say, no, this was from electricity. Right. Yeah, from a plant burning coal and natural gas.
It doesn't make sense.
And then the battery itself, I'm sorry, I mean, it'll all work out in time.
Right.
But the battery, do you know what these mines look like?
Right.
And what these mines do in Arizona and Brazil and South America, there's very few copper mines in the United States. Most of those copper mines are in Central South America because the environmental damage footprint is huge. And when you make those batteries, I mean, one of the biggest ingredients in them is lead, for goodness sake. You know what I mean? So it's all crazy, but the sky's not falling. I know if you go to Wall Street, 20% think it's going to crash and we're all going to buy gold, which is so insane because if everything happened that you did, what are you going to do with your gold bars? You can't eat it. You can't drink it. It reminds me of the tulip bulbs. It's a completely useless thing with no storage of value. And that's really smart people. That's how Sir Isaac Newton lost all his money. He came out with Principles of Mathematics in 1687, took all that money, invested in tulips, lost everything, which is why if you look at a picture of him, they say it costs an arm and a leg. You can tell he was a peasant because the only thing we have of him is a painting of his head. Because paintings were charged by body parts. So an arm is extra, a leg is extra. You knew George Washington was rich because full painting and his damn dog. Yeah. When you're getting your dog painted, that's throwaway money, okay? Yeah, but anyway, I could go on and on and on and on and on. But I think PR, but the Skyphone, we're talking about economics. You go to religion. My moms and sisters, they have so many friends that are preppers, preparing for the end. And then you go to like global warming. I mean, there's articles out there that think, one article I saw the other day that we'll be extinct in 8 years. Yeah, right. Yeah, the global warming, yeah, I'm sure the earth is warming, but we're all not going to die. And every 100 years gets better. And, if you just love drama, so you want to get into the stock market, religion, or the environment and just start running around telling everybody we're all going to die and the sky is falling, it's a personality trait. It is. And even when you go into any group, even dentists, 20% are fatalistic drama queens that always think everything's going to hell in a handbasket. Yet every time I go back through history, every 100 years, it just gets better and better and better. In fact, have you ever gone back? This is 2018, right? So if you go back to 1918, we already would have had World War I and the Spanish influenza, which dropped 5% of the entire world's population. And most of it was the babies who had never had influenza before. So a lot of the older people who had caught it 2 or 3 times had partial immunity. Because if you go to a funeral with Grandpa, no one ever cries. Have you ever noticed that when Grandpa dies, they're like, he was a good guy, good life, good Grandpa. Grandma dies, there's some tears, but man, when baby dies, the whole house comes down. And in the Spanish influenza, so and now what's the answer to not having this big worldwide influenza deal? Now we got the anti-vaxxers. And they don't want vaccines. Well, you know what? Darwin loves you. And but hey, thanks for all you do. Thanks for coming over and sharing your story. It was a huge honor that you want to come on my show.
Well, thank you for having me.
Oh, the honor was all mine. Thank you so much.